Hello everyone, Ben here, and you join us in the DTM 95 at the Hockenheimring, where Chris Rogers and I have locked out the front row in this ranked race. So we've got a really good chance of the two of us getting a good result here. We're on pole, Chris is alongside us on the inside, which in many respects is not where you want to be on this first lap at the Hockenheimring with a difficult right-hander, but we get underway. Chris actually gets a better start than we do. He's right alongside us now. I'm going to do my best not to pinch him to the outside, and in fact I'm going to deliberately run wide so we don't make contact, but it looks as if he chose to get out of the throttle in any case heading into the first corner, and so we are now well clear. We've picked up a small time penalty which we can easily serve and just a single incident point, so definitely worth not taking the risk in that opening corner either of making contact with Chris or getting punted from behind if there were some overly enthusiastic drivers further back down the grid. We've now managed to build ourselves quite a nice little gap after that opening section of corners, which is crucial down into this hairpin for the first time. Heavy braking zone on cold tyres and cold brakes. You just know that some people are going to make some big lunges further back in the field, and you don't want to be anywhere near that. And actually really the key for me, if I'm going to win this race, is building a gap to the cars behind. I don't want to get involved in any scraps if I can avoid it. I equally don't want to go faster than I need to. It's been a real learning curve for me this week in these cars. For those of you who joined me on stream on Thursday night, it took me quite a long time to get to grips with these DTM 95 cars. Strange handling characteristics for me. Couldn't quite get down into the corners, tightly into the apexes as I'd like to, nor get on the gas quickly enough either. So the fact that I've made progress over the last few days and are now in a position where I can be leading a race in them is really satisfying, but I'm not getting complacent here. I know that I could make a mistake and that would throw away what would be a brilliant opportunity for my first ranked race victory outside of the rookies. So we've come across the line then to finish our first lap. We've managed to build that gap out, as I say, and I'm now feeling pretty confident that we'll be able to extend it. But let's take a little look back at the start. You can see there visibly Chris on the left hand side of this screen getting a better start than we do. He's actually in the lead at this point. We keep nice and wide, but he has to get out of the gas. He doesn't want to hit that curb on the inside, is my guess. Let's have a look from his vantage point. Yeah, you can see it absolutely clearly there. He doesn't want to carry too much pace in, hit the curb, and then potentially cause a bigger accident. Let's just follow Chris round on his first lap. Given we had such a clean one, you can see into T2 he's already being swallowed up by other cars, and that's all because of his compromised line through T1, and that's put him back into the danger zone, essentially into the pack of cars that are all going to be scrapping for position as we come down the back straight for the first time and into the hairpin, where, as I said earlier, you just know there's going to be some optimistic or overly optimistic lunges. And there you go, look at that, one car there making up 2 or 3 spots and then parking it on the apex. Chris quite wisely just sticking out wide and taking a wide line, potentially sacrificing 1 or 2 spots, but at least making sure that he stays out of trouble on this opening lap and doesn't throw away the entire race within the space of just a few corners. He's being challenged now down the inside as well. You've got cars running wide up ahead. It really is all kicking off for Chris on this opening lap. He's going to hug the inside nicely, but the silver car there is probably going to get him around the outside, and it looks as if he has. He's now got a challenger from the yellow Mercedes on his inside. He's going to tough it out around the outside into the stadium section, and he manages to hold that position really well there. All sorts of action going on up and down the field here as again the yellow Mercedes is just trying to get a tyre down his inside, but Chris defends that really well. And now into the final tricky couple of corners, and look at that, Chris makes a great dive down the inside of the silver car up ahead to make that spot back. Really great overtake there as we come round to finish the first lap. You can see us down in the bottom right hand corner of the screen there coming through with a comfortable lead. Over the next couple of laps then we were able to consolidate that lead, but the battle behind us for second place was really hotting up. You can see now as we come down into the hairpin, the lead car there runs just slightly wide. It means they're now going to go side by side out of that hairpin down into the fast right-hander. The blue Mercedes just thinks better of it, doesn't hold it through the right-hand kink. He's now going to just take a little bit of a look into the left-hander. The black Mercedes runs slightly wide, so he might have a chance on exit, although it looks as if he's got away with it there. Perhaps there's going to be another chance for a pass into the stadium section. Potentially caught a slowdown penalty there, because it looks as if the driver in the black Mercedes gets out of the gas and he's run wide into the stadium section, and that does finally allow the switch of positions to take place. All of that battling was really helping us out. There was a real back and forward going on there for second and third place over the coming laps, which meant that we could build quite a stable gap at the front. And at this stage of the race, at least, we were setting the quickest lap times on track, which was great, because it just meant that I could drive within the limits, or my limits as a driver, and the limits of the car without coming under any unnecessary pressure from behind. So we're going to start another lap then, again leading this race pretty comfortably and just looking to consolidate that gap from behind. The car isn't really quite up to temperature yet. I haven't mastered getting the tyres universally up to temperature. Clearly the front left, as you'll see in the graphic in the bottom left hand corner of the screen, takes the most punishment around this lap, because that's just about where it needs to be. But the right hand tyres of the car not really up to temperature, and the brakes as well weren't fully up to temperature either. So I do have to be a little bit careful coming into some of these corners that I don't overdo it and send the car around or lose it under acceleration. But we're coming now through to around the halfway mark of the race, and so far it's probably been the most comfortable, if that's the right word, ranked race that I've ever had out front and leading. And this is quite a strange experience for me, because normally I'm further back in the pack, or if I'm fighting for the lead, then it really is a fight. So I'm having to just try and maintain my concentration, not let my mind wander and lose what is, or what should be from this point in the race, a pretty comfortable victory. I think the only thing at this point that could stop me from coming home with the win, with about half race distance left to go, is either one of the two drivers from behind me breaks away and gets out of that battle that they're involved in and can set some consistently fast lap times and put some pressure on me, or if I make a mistake. So I can't really control the first one of those two things, but I can control the second. So that's really where my mind is at the minute. And you can see the third place driver there has set a new fastest lap, so potentially the guys behind us do have some speed. Let's take a little look again then at the race that Chris was having further down in the pack. As you can see, he's being challenged on the inside there again by the yellow Mercedes, but he manages to hold it round in the stadium section. There's cars going off all over the place there, misjudging that tricky right-hander into the stadium section itself. Chris is just about managing to hold station here, but you can just see the difference in the amount of stress and the kind of racing pressure depending on where in the pack you were. Chris had really good pace in qualifying. He was only a few tenths off the time that we set, but unfortunately for him, because he's ended up getting trapped back in the pack, he's not really able to deliver those lap times in the race, because he's constantly having to fight with cars behind him, cars ahead of him, and because of just how combative some of those drivers are, there is no real scope to push the car to its limits, because you're always having to look at what other cars are doing around you. And there's another great example, as the yellow Mercedes ran wide up ahead of him. We've fast forwarded a little bit further now into the race. Funnily enough, it was just at this stage that I remembered that these cars do have engine maps, and so I'd been running most of the qualifying and race sessions so far in engine map 3. So I was just begun to turn up the engine mapping slightly as we hit some of the straights on the lap. I was a little bit conscious that I didn't want to overdo it. There didn't seem to be much need to, because my gap to the cars behind was still relatively stable, and I didn't want to run out of fuel either. But at the same time, it did make me smile in the cockpit that I'd just absolutely forgotten that I could turn the engine up. And so even within the context of leading the race quite comfortably, I probably could have been doing faster laps up until this point in the race. So we're coming through now onto the back straight once again. That battle between second and third place had continued to rage during the intervening laps, which meant that I was able to continue to maintain a gap to them. And here again, you can see as we come now towards the hairpin, they're going to go side by side. The black Mercedes on the inside has surely got the high ground here, and providing he gets his braking right and is able to kind of take the corner normally, but unfortunately he hits the curb, and that's going to slow him down significantly. You can see him there get on the gas, and there was just no grip, so he had to cede the position once again. We're going to fast forward now right to the very end of the race, as ultimately the positions were pretty static from that point on. For his part, Chris is going to come home in 8th place, not that far off the lead, but just unfortunately stuck in traffic and unable in the end to make his way back through to the podium positions. For our part, we've held that gap to 2nd and 3rd place pretty consistently throughout the course of the 15-minute race distance. So we're going to come round now into the final corner and take the checkered flag for our first, what I would say is true race win on the ranked servers in RaceRoom, and I'm really happy about that. I did not expect it at all when I logged in to run this race session. I hadn't had great pace in these cars before. We maybe got a little bit lucky with the strength of the field in this race, but nevertheless it was a full grid and we were able to dominate ultimately from start to finish, and that's the first time I've ever experienced that, so I'm going to enjoy it regardless. So there's the confirmation of the final standings. Chris down there in 8th place, and we're going to now enjoy a podium screen with us at the top of it. I hope you've enjoyed the episode. If you have, leave a like and subscribe, and I will see you next time.